Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar, Harnessing Social Media Monitoring for Pharmacovigilance today. My name is Miki Weiloyan, and I am a Media Intelligence Specialist at LexisNexis BIS in Switzerland. I am today with Laura Calao and Jean-Christophe Lahary, joining us to this online session from BIS France in live. Both experts in media intelligence and social media monitoring, especially in the field of pharmacovigilance, which brings us together today. Laura, Jean-Christophe, hello, and thank you for your presence. Before we start, we're having a technical issue. I am sorry, everyone. Let me just see if that works. There we go. So again, Laura, Jean-Christophe, hello, and thank you for your presence today.
Hey, good morning.
Hi, Miki. Hi, everyone.
Good morning. You will be guiding us through this session on pharmacovigilance and sharing more precisely with our guests the reason why you think that social media monitoring is an asset for this profession, and especially what good practices you suggest to adopt in order to leverage insights given. Now, before getting into the heart of the matter, a brief reminder for our guests. Our web conference will last for 45 minutes and will conclude with a brief survey. Please use the dialog box at the bottom right of your screen for any questions or comments you should have. We will answer your questions following to our session by email. Many thanks. Laura, before we talk about best practices, could you please briefly remind us on what pharmacovigilance exactly means? What are the objectives, the scope, and the products concerned?
Yes, of course. So maybe for those who are not fully aware of pharmacovigilance, it can be a good idea to give a quick reminder. So pharmacovigilance is a system for monitoring, identifying, assessing, as well as preventing the risk of adverse effects related to the use of drugs or health product commercialized on the market. And by risk, it means a proven but also a potential risk. So the drugs, what we call drugs, they are mainly products that have a marketing authorization, or what we call, for instance, in France, temporary authorization for use. There are also other types of products, but I'm not going into detail for this webinar. And what should be noted also is that in the scope of PV, it's not limited to possible adverse effects. It also extends to other criteria such as lack of effectiveness, abuse, and misuse, which are intentional. We have also accidental errors, interaction or suspicion of interaction with other drugs. And we can notice also that even monitoring unexpected benefits can be in the scope of pharmacovigilance.
Great. Could you also please specify the goals and challenges?
Mm-hmm. Well, we have to remind that the PV system was set up in order to meet several objectives. Generally speaking, the PV, the pharmacovigilance, responds to public health issues to ensure people's safety and health in terms of using medicines. The PV system is also a constant part of what we call the benefit risk assessment, profile assessment of drugs. And on the other end, and maybe this is an important aspect to highlight, the system is, or at least it should be, at the service of the patient. So on top of ensuring patient safety in the area of health, the goal is also to improve medical care and patient management in general. And maybe in terms of communication, what we can add here is that the objective of the pharmacovigilance is to promote knowledge on the subject and also to foster communication not also towards but especially between health professionals, health actors, and the general public. The final aim is also to reinforce in a sustainable way the level of confidence in drugs and in health authorities.
And as far as I know, this profession is under very strict control, right?
Yes, yeah, we can see on this slide. So indeed, since 1963, there are guidelines and recommendations about health matters and it's increasing. Just to give you a quick few historical references, in the U.S., the PV system was initiated in the early 20th century with the FDA. Afterwards, the World Health Organization implemented in the 60s national PV centers, and in France it was later in the 70s. And it's important also to remember that this is health scandals that have led to major reforms of the legislative and regulatory framework, especially regarding marketing approvals of drugs. So, in France, we can give the example of the health scandal related to the Stalino in the 50s, or also the contaminated blood affair in the 90s. And even today, unfortunately, there are many health cases that are still exposed in the media. And I really hope that these cases will encourage the authority to reinforce the different safety control of the drugs.
Okay, so what are the most important innovations?
So recently, the authorities have raised an interest in the web and social networks. There are no strict directives that has been given yet, but the authorities are multiplying recommendation and what we call good practices. So, for instance, in the U.S., the FDA has published 3 years ago a draft guidance for social media, and in a more European level, we had last year a reflection on social media and internet. So just to summarize maybe at this stage, the main takeaways from this recommendation in terms of pharmacovigilance are the fact that pharma industries have a responsibility regarding their institutional, corporate sites or their Facebook pages, whether they are owners or sponsors. There is no obligation to monitor reports of adverse effects on so-called non-sponsored social networks like Twitter, Forum, Facebook, except, of course, in the specific case of placing this social media under monitoring.
So pharmacovigilance is a highly complex topic. Jean-Christophe, which challenges does this profession face?
Well, before speaking about the numerous new challenges facing the profession, I would like to step back a little and to talk a few moments about the major pressure that is undergoing right now. So with the advent of social network, so-called health scandal can grow to enormous proportion, and even they are very short-lived. The reputation risks are very, very high, and hold, I would say, that the image which sometimes took years to be built by company can be damaged in a few days due to this health-related scandal. So in this slide, we have an illustration of two recent media cases which have been recorded a few months ago on the web and namely on a French social media discussion. And this very simple trend just give you an idea of the huge level of discussion that popped up regarding two specific product. On the one hand, the uvesterol D, which give unprecedented notoriety to a company, Kleenex, that was almost unknown before a case was reported on the social media, or more recently also the media buzz that surrounded the Escher contraceptive device. And despite all their efforts, we can see here that health professionals are now in the spotlight. Can you move maybe to the next slide, Miki?
Yeah.
So on a broader scale, and if we go beyond these two recent examples, we in some instance tracking the side effect of drugs after they have been commercialized results in the drug being pulled from the market. So here we have four examples of drugs that have been removed due to adverse effects that change the benefit-risk balance that Laura mentioned beforehand. So we see here that the impact on the overall, we say, activity of those companies can be very huge. So it's really important to be able to monitor any available feedback to gather a complete understanding of this drug profile in real life usage, if I may say. So the subject is therefore very complex because the environment has radically changed in the course of the recent years. We've tried here to underline maybe seven patterns of this huge change. So first of all, it's pretty obvious, the globalization. So now the production, the distribution, and the consumptions are normal, I would say local and only focused on specific country, but are truly global. As also, I would say, as a consequence of it, we have seen the huge growth of what we call e-commerce, which now and since several years now also apply to drug, and of course there is a huge risk of uncontrolled sale of drugs. On the other way, even if this e-commerce seems to be much more open, the changes have occurred in terms of practice and uses within society. So people are more keen to have a better safety and openness about what is sold and the possible impact of this product. On the other hand, we also have a huge growth of education to promote good practice and sharing information between stakeholders. More specific on the pharmaceutical, I would say, area, the development of generic products, which has an impact of the control of interaction of surveillance, has increased the level of complexity of that subject, and of course two other strong items related to that complexity. So which is related to globalization. So first, the emergence of new countries in the market of drugs, and we can easily understand here that the pharmacovigilance practices can vary a lot from one country to another, and especially among new players and new countries which evolve in that field. And last but not least, of course, the growing usage of social media has an impact on the new type of vigilance directive that needs to be put in place, and that Laura mentions beforehand. So there are many potentially complex stakes at all, among which the necessity to place the consumer and patient at the heart of the pharmacovigilance process. So this promise is turned into practice, if I may say. So, for instance, in France, since 2011, there's a new law, for instance, which enable patients and patient associations to, like any other health professionals, they can officially alert the official organization on medicines and their undesirable effects. So it's a huge progress in terms of pharmacovigilance and possibility to report on those side effects. And curiously enough, even if now I would say the end users and patients have this possibility, the direct return from patients account for only 5% of the reported case, which is indeed very, very low.
So why do you think that social media monitoring could have a positive and major impact on pharmacovigilance? I understand this is the right approach to the matter. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. But indeed, it's not enough. So we do not naively believe that this will solve all the problems and guarantee a 100% secure system.
And I agree with Jean-Christophe. It will not solve, of course, everything. But social media monitoring has many advantages, and it's now seen as a complementary source of information for the pharmacovigilance. Miki, if you can pass on the next slide, please.
Yes.
Yeah, the chart. So when you see this graph, you really better understand the value of social media monitoring. There is a new content created every 60 seconds. It can come from Facebook posts or WhatsApp messages, Twitters, also photos uploaded on Instagram. There is also maybe another interesting fact that I can share with you is that almost 1/3 of the world's population has an active account on a social network, namely Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. So these new technologies and these social networks have changed the way we communicate. There are now real places for personal expression, for sharing. In some countries or for some communities, they are even used as a privileged, sometimes as a privileged communication channels or marketplaces. So in order to reposition the patient in the priority of the pharmacovigilance, it's really necessary to go to where patients express themselves, to detect the potential risk, and of course to inform them about this risk in terms of pharmacovigilance.
Yeah, the second reason we are convinced indeed that putting social media as a key I would say element of a robust pharmacovigilance approach is that we are convinced, as we see here, that now talking about health or medicine on social network is part of habits of any kind of consumer/patient. So what happened 10 or 20 years ago about discussing, taking advice, communicating, looking for information about, let's say, consumer good products, about car, IT, or IT products, are now expanding on any type, I would say, of activity, including health topics. So right now we are increasingly turning towards blogs or forums of patient community or more recent social network to discuss health in a very natural and transparent way. So we see now posts, photos, comments, questions, tweets, which are visible on the internet on various themes like diabetes, cancer, allergies, depression, pain, AIDS, hepatitis, vaccination. So the list is of course endless, and the volume and the quality of the information available about those subjects are not only consistent, but by definition they sound to us richer simply because they come directly from the patient, and moreover almost in real time. So it's really important to consider, of course, the change of the relationships with health within internet, and beyond that, we also know that pharmacists, doctors, and more generally health experts, so the person that we used to consider to be the only true people to go through to get answers about those questions, are not the only reference. So we thanks or because of the growth of social media, the confidence is on other type of information provider like whistleblowers is exploding. So monitoring the web and social network is therefore paramount.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other aspects you would like us to emphasize? Yes,
indeed. Two more to be precise. So first, it seems silly and obvious, but it is that social media monitoring and pharmacovigilance are based on the same fundamental. Or putting it otherwise, social media monitoring allows pharmacovigilance to fulfill three key essential missions which are linked to PV. So first, being able to listen, to have a better knowledge of your product benefits and risk, and to improve then the strategy for risk evaluation. Also, second mission, being able to share by a faster identification and a better communication of potential risk, and also the possibility to optimize your communication in the event of a crisis or incorrect information about a product or detection of potential risk. And finally, also third point to be able to better collaborate by first by providing a better education about health for healthcare and customers, and last but not least, to improve the relationship between pharmaceutical companies, laboratory, and patient communities to really put the patient at the heart of their strategy.
And maybe to go further, Miki, if you can go on the next slide. So what Jean-Christophe said earlier is that currently there is a process to collect the PV information. It can be notified during clinical trials. It can be also notified by health professionals. In France, for instance, we have also online declaration formula, or a patient can declare some adverse effects or other type of pharmacovigilance criteria during more classical market surveys. But now, with the social media monitoring, we can reach directly discussions about real-life experience of patients relating to their treatment, to their illness. And also, most of the time, these conversations are spontaneous and guided. There is no moderator like in classical, conventional qualitative survey. And besides, there is a huge amount of information available with millions of voices. And there is also a speed at which this info is accessible, as we are monitoring on a real-time basis. So these assets cannot be equaled via classical market surveys. And beyond these three aspects, the social media monitoring is also a means to detect weak signals, also to follow influencers, the detractors, or whistleblowers in the area of PV. So these four or five elements prove that social media monitoring has many assets that allow to track and detect adverse effects and any other possible drug-related problems.
Okay, so let me summarize on social media monitoring. You being expert in social media monitoring, what are your recommendations and best practices to make social media monitoring a pillar of pharmacovigilance? Jean-Christophe?
Yeah, so if you can move to the next slide. The first thing to understand is, well, more or less, how does it work? So and to keep it simple, because this small scheme, the idea here is how the dashboard or the report that you receive through a kind of social media monitoring tool works. Behind the scenes, there is and again, to keep it very simple, more or less four key stages and type of operation to be able to perform to make sure that your PV solution is robust. So first of all, the aim of this solution is to be able to track all kind of usual conversation. So as Laura previously explained, so there is a flow of activity information which can be article, post, question, history, crisis, so anything which are going through the web. So the first thing that you need to be able is to be able to extract this information. Either it's a conventional text, a post, or either it's a comment, it's a thread. Either also it now can have some different formats. So either it's a photo, a video, or any kind of social demographic data. So you have to first have this capability to extract all the information coming from various set of social media. Next thing to be able to do is to do a kind of data aggregation. So wherever I would say I listen, you need to be able to aggregate all this information flow within a single repository. If I may say, either you're using a standard crawler, either you're using API. So you need to have a very robust data retrieval system. And the next stage, which is probably furthermore important, is to be able to process all that data. So either they come from social network, blogs, discussion forum. You need to have a robust system that will enable to standardize and enrich that content. So standardize, that is to say that at the end of the day, all the content that you collect need to have a similar format, and you need to be able to process different natural language processes. So several types of data and text mining, for instance, to be able to extract automatically brand names, to extract automatically tone of conversation tags. So any kind of processes that will compute a part of the analysis, that will break down your overall results, and that will help, of course, to extract the best and most valuable information, and to be pushed through a dashboard or through a PV solution. So, in a nutshell, four main complex stages that need to be performed in a very robust way.
Yeah, and to complete what Jean-Christophe just said, Nikki, if you can pass the next slide. We think that it's essential for companies getting started in the social media monitoring. It's important to understand and control three main steps. The first one is to understand how the information is collected. What type of data are we looking for? What are the key inputs necessary to collect the PV data? On what type of media, maybe what languages are concerned, will all the documents collected will be analyzed, or are we analyzing only a sample of documents? The second step is to fully understand how PV data is processed, what kind of technologies or methodologies are used, what type of semantic analysis is applied, are we doing an automatic analysis, or do we have any human or manual coding, for instance? What are also the process put in place for regarding the personal data collected during the PV, the pharmacovigilance monitoring? And the last step is, of course, to understand how the analysis will be carried out. To what extent the categorization of PV information has been defined beforehand, the monitoring. Do we take into account any bias due to translation or due to any kind of interpretation? What is the expertise on this topic of the analysis in charge of analyzing the data? So therefore, it's essential to have all these questions in mind before launching social media monitoring about pharmacovigilance, at the risk, of course, of ending up with misleading signals or information, which would obviously be a problem for the clients. So remember that it's important to remember that in terms of methodology, whatever we are doing, classical PV pharmacovigilance, or whatever we are doing pharmacovigilance through social media monitoring, the methodology has to be the same level of quality as the one that we have in the current PV system.
Okay, so indeed for us in LexisNexis BIS, exploiting social media monitoring for pharmacovigilance requires 3 areas of expertise. The first one, and I already mentioned that, is of course a technological expertise. So you need to be able to perform all these complex stages of retrieving the information, normalizing the information, to do all the aggregation, and to run some semantic analysis on the content that you want to analyze. But this semantic analysis is of course not enough. Your data needs to be enriched, and they need to be up to date to consider new technologies like image recognition that need to be also gradually integrated to social media platforms. So first, a technological expertise. But second, as Laura said, technology is of course not enough. Of course we would not recommend any kind of 100% completed approach. You need a layer of professional expertise to treat and analyze the data that you collect. And here the image of it's not only, of course, I would say, a linguistic skill. So not only you need to be able to read, I would say, the information which content patterns of pharmacovigilance cases in a proper language. You need also to understand, I would say, the vernacular language which is used by people who discuss about drugs, especially on social networks. So in other words, you need to be fully familiar with the language of the sector. You need to be also familiar to broken language and distorted information which are sometimes pushed through social media. So it's not only a matter of language, it's a matter of sector expertise. And furthermore, and this is also what we usually recommend, to make sure that you completely align with the requirement of the pharmaceutical company regarding how to detect and how to sort cases within pharmacovigilance categories. What we usually see also is to have a proper training performed directly by the customer, with to be sure that the analyst will be fully empowered to be able to perform e-pharmacovigilance. So second layer, it's a professional expertise, and lastly, I think we already mentioned it a little bit, is you need to be able to, of course, to consider the variety of web content that are crucial for social media monitoring. You can't just follow certain platforms. So, in other words, tracking only tweets or only public pages from Facebook will be a huge mistake and limit, because it will not take into account the specifics of specific aspects of conversation about drug. But I think that, Laura, you have an example to share here.
Yeah, on the next slide, Nikki, if you can. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, exactly. Maybe to illustrate what Jean-Christophe said about the last aspect of the expertise needed on the social media monitoring. If you look at the results of this study that we carried out 2 years ago on patients, it was in the areas of diabetes and rheumatoid arthritis. You can see that the type of media used to gather patients' insights and PV information can be different. Twitter, for instance, is the media on which diabetes is the most visible. And on the other hand, if you look the rheumatoid arthritis, posts are much more present on blogs. So once again, monitoring unique or exclusive platforms is not enough, and you have to be careful with this aspect of the monitoring.
Okay, thank you. So which are the best practices we should adopt then?
Well, to keep it simple, I think based on what we have said, I think there are five here items to consider. So first of all, you of course need to monitor your regulatory environment. So Laura already mentioned this at the beginning of the webinar. The regulatory and the law environment vary a lot from one region to another. It's a very evolving framework, and you need to be aware of what are the recommendation and the best practices to be up to date. Second, and we also already mentioned that, thinking of the kind of experts and I would say most I would say influencers on the discussion, you need to be able to look at whistleblowers or weak signal, and not only rely, of course, when you are on social media, on official so-called experts, but because these are not today the only referent which are used to collect and exchange information about drugs. Third aspect, which I think is pretty obvious with what we have already said. So a computed approach is mandatory, but is not enough. And there is no way, of course, to perform a robust pharmacovigilance solution through a social media monitoring solution with only a full 100% analysis. Fourth point, and I think Laura also emphasized on that, you need to be beyond, I would say, the technological aspect. You need to be very, very careful about the methodologies that will be put in place to ensure and to be very clear on how we collect the information, how we select them, what are the criteria to consider that there is a pattern for OPV cases. So be very careful about the robust methodologies that need to be put in place. And last but not least, use the right expertise, so expertise which should not be, of course, limited to language, but also the sectors, and train up your, I would say, train up your provider, share your knowledge to be sure that indeed the best alignment and quality will be reached on your pharmacovigilance solution.
Okay, thank you. Anything to add?
Well, I think we're good.
Okay, very good. So thank you. We're coming to the end of our webinar. And again, thank you very much, Laurent and Jean-Christophe, for sharing your expertise with us today. Before we close this session, dear participants, please take a few minutes and go through our survey that will pop up in a second at your screen. And use the time and please give us some response on what you think about the webinar. In the meantime, while you are responding to the poll, I will say thank you again. Many thanks, au revoir, and have a good day, everyone ahead.
Thank you.
Bye.